And so expand on what you were just saying about having arthritis and everything.
Yeah, I've had arthritis since I was a little kid. And I used to watch my grandmother.
I've never even heard of kids that had arthritis.
Well, yeah, I know. I didn't know it either.
Yeah.
But I used to, watch my grandmother, and like she would go to grab something or bend down and pick something up, and she would struggle, and I'd say, "Grandma, what's the matter?" And she's like, "Oh, honey, I have arthritis," and her hands would be shaking sometimes, and I would just think like, I don't ever want to have arthritis. And there I was at 33 years old, getting a epidural stuck in my back, getting a double hip replacement surgery at 33 years old from genetic arthritis. And what I started thinking more recent, like after that, I went through a lot of depression, a lot of pain, and a 6-year drug episode where I was hooked on prescription painkillers, not by choice, like a lot of people say, like, oh, you had a choice to do that or not do that. I was in so much pain, I couldn't walk. Yeah. So
wait, to backtrack for a second, as a kid, like as a teenager, did you have pain all the time?
As a teenager, I'll tell you, I played football in high school. And I played football because I was the strongest kid in high school by far. I benched over 405 in high school. Jesus. I could squat over 600 pounds, but I couldn't run. So my football coach recognized that. Like, this kid can run like 30, 40 yards, but after that, like, he's all fucked up. Like,
just because it was so painful?
It was painful, and it would just take a beating on my hips and my knees, and I didn't know what was wrong with me. So my coach was like, well, you don't have to run laps with the team. You can just go out and practice and play. And so I was like the Marshawn Lynch of our team, where like I didn't really practice with the team. I just went out and played, and I practiced. I went to practice, and I went through all the hitting drills and the this and that, but I just didn't run with the team. So everybody was always pissed at me because I never sort of had a pass. Yeah. But I mean, to me, don't you think I'd rather be out running with the rest of the kids? Like, I don't want to sit on the sidelines and be the loser.
Especially as a kid,
I would sit on the sideline and actually, like, I know it sounds like being a pussy, but like I was big into lifting and training, and I was big into like what I, who I was through that. And so I'd sit on the sidelines and kind of cry inside, thinking like, why can't I just be normal like these other kids? And so that actually took me on this path where I got addicted to prescription drugs after I had a double hip replacement surgery.
When was that?
That was at 33 because I was in so much pain all the time. Yeah. And so
probably years of heavy powerlifting.
Go back that there. And what happened was, up until I was 28, I was squatting and deadlifting really heavy. I competed in the California State Championships, and I won that. Squatted like 650 or something like that. Benched like 4 or something.
At what weight class?
198, I think. And then, 198 for sure. And then what happened was, shortly after that, everything hurt. So I was like, well, I'm going to stop powerlifting. So I stopped squatting and deadlifting because every time I'd squat and deadlift, it would take me like a week, to recover. Yeah. And within 5 years of stopping squatting and deadlifting, I needed my hips replaced. And so my doctor actually told me it was from stopping what I was doing. Like, really? not that it, like if I shouldn't have been lifting heavy necessarily, but me stopping, like, so basically I stopped all movement, and just started drinking a lot and taking a lot of drugs to cover up for the pain. Yeah. And so that was just the wrong way to go. Yeah. And so after all that, and after I got sober, I've been sober for 3 years now, I realized like there are things that you can do naturally with your own body to get out of pain. Yeah. And I wasn't doing any of them. I was doing zero. So one thing I was doing a lot of was eating a lot of sugar. Cut the sugar, cut the grains, cut the flour. And I know we hear that all the time, but it actually really does work.
And so how long after did you cut them all at once? Was it a pretty drastic thing?
I've done it both ways. Okay. So I think we're always on a learning curve. We're always learning every single day. And if you're not, you might as well be dead. Yep. Like if you're not learning and if you're not always starting over, you might as well be dead, because it's like every day I'm like, I got it. I know what I need to fix in my diet. And just when I think I know what I need to fix in my diet, something else comes along and it makes me open my mind a little bit, So I was going on this strict keto diet. I was eating a ton of meat all day long, just meat. And then somebody said to me like, well, why don't you just try a plant-based diet? Because plant-based diets are stupid and they don't work and they're for pussies. Yeah. Right. And he's like, why? I'm like, I don't know why. Maybe because I'm a meathead and that's just what I thought. So I started researching vegan diets. And I haven't gone 100% that way, but I've went a lot more that way when I realized that eating whole foods and the spectrum that it provides, even like I just said, I had bulletproof coffee. When you have bulletproof coffee, what are you doing? You're doing the same thing that you're doing with when you have these sugar cereals. Yeah. Bulletproof coffee is made with a C8 MCT oil. C8 MCT oil is only a small fraction of what comes in coconut oil. You're missing the rest of the spectrum of everything else that coconut oil coconut oil does. So do we know that it's actually better in isolation, or is it better in the whole food? It's really difficult to tell. So I think we get benefits from both. So I actually utilize both. And it made me open my mind a little bit more to thinking like, coconut oil is useless. I don't need that. I'll just use brain octane all the time. Yeah. And I love brain octane. And it's great because it does convert easily over to ketones. They're finding out now that even C6, which is, even shorter chain triglyceride, might convert to ketones even quicker. But there's no C6 available on the market right now. So that's something that would have to be synthesized or made because it's very, very small in, coconut oil. But just to get away from all that technical stuff and get back to the thing, it's like these whole foods, these whole plants, these whole things may be better for us than we thought.
So did you initially go on a strict paleo plan? Did you go on like some kind of vegan plan? What I was saying
is I went on a strict keto diet, and I guess
first.
I'll explain it overall. So
you were just eating whatever,
a really strict keto diet. Really,
no, but I mean before keto, you were just eating like a meathead, just whatever.
I would always try to eat clean, but I would lie to myself a lot.
Yeah.
So I would say, well, I only cheat like once a week, and I'd cheat like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
Who am I kidding? I was eating candy all the time. I'd slip things here and there. Somebody would be like, hey, try this. And I'd try it.
Yeah.
The thing is that I don't crave anything anymore. And here's why I don't crave anything anymore. And I think that people need to know this. Like I said, it's all a learning curve. So for me, it was a learning curve. What I did for the first 3 months of keto, a ketogenic diet is just a high fat diet, low carbohydrates, and moderate protein. I stuffed myself with fat to the point where I ended up in the emergency room because I was like, I'm like a guinea pig. I like to try shit to the extreme. So
me too.
I was taking like tons of MCT oil, tons of this and that. And I warn people, like, don't take too much MCT oil because you're going to end up with disaster pants.
Yeah,
what they end up, I think they call it.
Yeah.
And it's pretty much true. So I had too much MCT oil to the point where it was killing my stomach. I would put in like MCT oil on bacon and things like that. And to get into ketosis, that's not a bad idea.
Right.
The first couple days
in theory, not a bad idea.
Well, the first couple days of getting in ketosis. But think about what I said about whole foods yesterday. To get it back into ketosis after a period of eating carbohydrates, what I did is I took a whole avocado. I threw it in a blender with 3 egg yolks. I whipped that up and I cooked it in butter. It's like one of the best things I ever had. Is like this whipped up avocado egg thing, egg yolk thing. Uh-huh. And that put me in ketosis so quick. Boom! I went and checked my ketones. I was like 1.2, and I was like, before that, I wasn't in ketosis. So to me, things like that are just really high concentrated, high fat, really whole foods, may be able to get you in ketosis quicker, which begs the question that my brother always asks, do we need to be in ketosis? And Dave Asprey from Bulletproof, who I really highly recommend listening to his stuff, he always asks, are we meant to always be in ketosis? Or are we meant to, and like my goal as a filmmaker is not to figure these things out. I'm not the biohacker. I'm not the guy. It's to interview these people and find out for you guys, like, and to find out for myself. So I always look at myself as like, some people will like pin me down as an expert. I'm like, I'm kind of not the expert. I'm kind of like you. I'm just a dude that wants to know.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like picking up the facts as I go along as well. And I think that's the beauty of it. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a PhD. I'm just like everybody else in the audience with a couple questions.
And so what changes did you notice, like in terms of inflammation and joint pain, focus, sleep, testosterone?
Yeah. So the ketogenic diet is an amazing program for reducing inflammation. It actually blocks the NLRP3 hormone, which is a signaler to inflammation. So I went to the Metabolic Therapeutics Conference down in Florida this year, and the very first speaker there was a guy that Dr. Dominic D'Agostino brought in, who Dominic D'Agostino, if you don't know who he is, one of the 4 founding fathers, I should say, of like the ketogenic movement for what I like to refer to as keto therapy. Yeah. Basically, this application of keto for diseases, which is just really amazing. And they're using it for everything from brain cancer to diabetes. I'm not going to sit here and tell your audience that they're curing brain cancer, but in some patients, they actually have. Yeah. They actually have shown that it's in remission. So we want to be very careful with using the word cure. But we've seen a lot of remission from brain tumors, a lot of reversal of diabetes, a lot of things like this in the literature for ketogenic diets. So it's something that we need to research more closely.
Yeah.
And because of that, I actually announced a couple of weeks ago on my brother's YouTube channel that I'm doing a documentary about the ketogenic diet movement. It's not going to necessarily be pigeonholed into that keto movement, because I think that that's a bad idea. I think that people will look at it and go like, I don't want to be in the cult of keto.
Right.
And I don't want you to be in the cult of keto. I want you to think for yourself, and I want you to learn how to eat strong. And that's what the movie's called, is Eat Strong, because that's what me and Mark are all about. My brother will be heavily involved in the film. My brother right now is working with Dana White and Stone Cold Steve Austin, helping those guys lose weight.
Okay.
And it's just incredible to see like somebody like Smelly, who can get online, and he started tweeting back and forth with, Dana White, like, hey man, if you need help getting in shape, let me know. Just simple stuff like that, and being cool to people, and having him be like, yeah, man, you look great. I'd love to pick your brain, or whatever. And that's how you do things, and it wasn't like any, elaborate pitch to him or whatever. I just love the way that Mark approaches things, and sort of approaches things with no fear. Like I would be like, I can't tell Dana White what to do. Like I'd be scared, he just has no fear of it. He just knows what he's doing. It's funny because Mark, a lot of people don't know, he's very learning disabled. He grew up dyslexic, and I don't even know if we don't even know specifically if he was dyslexia or just severe learning disabilities that put him in classes with the dumb kids, or kids that were, I wouldn't even call them dumb. They just learn slower. Like that's all. That's it. So, but he was in class, I should say, the kids that made trouble, the troublemaker kids. And it made him feel really bad. And he always strove to get out of those classes. So, nowadays, when people say your brother's a genius, man, there couldn't be like a higher compliment that you pay Mark Bell than say like you're a genius, because to him that's something that he fought and battled, all of his life, and he just embraced what he loved. And I think that that's a solid message to carry through for anybody. It's like if you are learning disabled, you do have problems learning things, or just you have problems in one area, absorb and commit to the other areas in your life where you are strong.
Yeah. And so you would attribute his success to his work ethic and maybe more so just to his fear, his lack of fear.
Yeah.
Just like, fuck it. I don't care.
The lack of, there's no resistance. So I read this book, and everybody should read it. It's called The War of Art.
Yeah.
And it's Stephen Pressfield. And this book will cut a promo. We always use the term cut a promo. That's what they do in wrestling. When one guy yells at the other guy, it's cutting a promo on. This thing will cut a promo on you so bad about why you're fat, lazy, sick, and dying, or everything about your creativity and your inner will and your well-being. Yeah. It will tear you to shreds and rip you a new asshole so bad that you will just go out and do every single thing that you wanted to do. And that's one of the books. So I should just give a reading list. This is the Chris Bell reading list. I completely transformed my life after rehab. I was 260 pounds. I read The Bulletproof Diet. Okay. I read recently. I read Rob Wolf's Wired to Eat, which I haven't read it yet. Couldn't recommend highly enough. These books are all kind of the same thing. Yeah. I read Jimmy Moore's Keto Clarity, which if you're looking for straight keto information, that's probably your number one source to go to. Okay. It does get a little technical and keto-y, but like that's okay if that's what you're looking for. And then also I read The War of Art, which is a book that helped me grow. I read The Case Against Sugar by Gary Taubes and Good Calories, Bad Calories, which are great books by Gary Taubes, which show us how the food industry has lied to us. Sugar, Fat, and Salt by... I forget the guy's name, but anyway, that Sugar, Fat, Salt book tells you how they spend billions of dollars to make food addictive so that we're addicted to it. So we have to eat it. Things like the ideas of vanishing caloric density, where if a food feels like it doesn't take up any space in your body, you'll just keep consuming it. So that's why Doritos and these things, they don't have an aftertaste because they don't want it to have an aftertaste. Right. They want that great taste to disappear as soon as possible, so you consume more. So by reading all these books, The Obesity Code by Jason Fung, learning about fasting, oh my God. Like if I was like fasting.
He writes a lot about fasting, right?
Jason Fung. Yeah. When I heard about fasting, I'm like, what kind of losers do fasting? You're going to, wither away to nothing. You're going to be, you're not going to be able to do shit. I fast all the time now. I fast every day for about 18 hours. Okay. So I do intermittent fasting. Mm-hmm. I utilize bulletproof coffee. I love bulletproof coffee. I know a lot of people are like, get a lot of naysayers and everything, but know why you're using stuff. Yeah. Know why you're utilizing it. All I'm doing with bulletproof coffee is utilizing it to make my fast last longer. So my fast, instead of waking up at 9 o'clock and being starving until 4 p.m., I have a cup of bulletproof coffee, and that carries me through all day. Basically, that fat will satiate me all day. And because I'm just eating fat, my body doesn't really recognize that as a real meal. It doesn't raise your insulin levels at all. Yep. So if it's just fat, there's zero protein, zero carbs in it. you're not going to raise your insulin levels, and therefore you stand a better chance of burning fat during that period.
And so that's a mistake a lot of people make. They eat too much protein when they go keto.
I think everybody eats too much protein.
Totally.
I think the whole world eats too much protein. I was listening to John Mackey. He's the CEO of Whole Foods, and he wrote a book called The Whole Foods Diet. And my first impression is like, screw this guy. Whole Foods, like they sell a lot of junk in there. Who's this guy to get on and tell me?
They do actually, yeah. And even their prepared foods, we were talking about this last night. They have canola oil and all kinds of shit.
They got a bunch of shit in them. Yeah. And so I was like, well, this guy, whatever. But he basically said, hey, look, it's a business. We put our ingredients on everything. He's like, I don't actually recommend to eat that way. I recommend actually eating whole foods.
Yeah.
And what I mean by the whole foods diet is that nothing that I eat is packaged. It's all from our produce section. It's all from our fruit section.
Right.
And it's all from our meat section. And meat only makes up about 10% of my diet. Okay. And I thought about that. And I thought about how many calories, how much protein do you actually need in order to build muscle? And if you go and you read Jimmy Moore's Keto Clarity and you read like a lot of these books, it varies so much in how much protein we need. And I think that's something that we need to figure out.
Right.
It's like, where do we need to be on the protein in order to actually build the most muscle? Do we need 200 grams?
I think it's way less than people have thought all these years.
I think it's way less too, because I've been eating way less and I look way better.
Yeah.
The only thing I know, and people online, they can say whatever they want. They can, anybody can talk about me, whatever. The one thing that I know for a fact is every day I walk into the gym, and every single day somebody comes up to me and says, "Oh my God, I can't believe how good you look. You look completely different. You look younger. You look thinner. You're leaner. You're in better shape, and you're clear-minded. And you're just calm. You're focused. Everything."
Yeah.
So when I hear that, do I immediately think, you know what I should do? I should go eat a bunch of Red Vines and Sour Patch Kids like I used to every night,
right?
And drink some beer with it,
yeah,
and wash it down with some beer because that's what gives me results. No, I'm going to stick to this purest version of me that I have because it's working.
Yeah. And how much weight did you lose?
Altogether, my fattest, there's a scene in Bigger, Stronger, Faster, all right, in Prescription Thugs, where I'm interviewing Ted Lieu, who's the congressman from California. I weighed 263 pounds that morning.
Holy shit. What do you know?
Today I weighed 183.
Wow.
So you do the math. I'm not good at math, but that's, it's kind of a lot of weight to drop over. It was over time. Like actually I dropped, so what I did was I went to Sundance about 3 years ago, maybe now, with this movie, The Resurrection of Jake the Snake, which is on Netflix. If people haven't seen it, The Resurrection of Jake the Snake,
great film,
is one of my favorite movies. And I can say that because I didn't direct it. So I can push it without, saying like, look at me.
Yeah, it was really good.
Great movie. And what happened was I got a phone call from this guy, Steve Yu, hey, we've been shooting this stuff with Jake, Jake the Snake, about him getting sober and blah, blah. And I'm like, dude, I've already seen it on YouTube. Stop putting it on YouTube. You have to make it a movie. I didn't hear from the guy for like a year and a half. He called me back a year and a half later. He's like, we got a rough cut of the movie. And he had wanted to do another movie about fitness. So I'm like, oh, the fitness movie? He's like, no, the one about Jake. And I'm like, oh, really? Okay, cool. He's like, yeah, I did everything you said. I'm like, you did? Nobody ever listens to me. Like people come to me with documentary ideas all the time, and I tell them exactly how to go about doing it, and they never do it. So this was the first guy, Steve, that actually went through and did it. And Steve is like the CEO of DDP's yoga company, which now is like since exploded since that movie came out, because we show Jake going through the motions and doing the DDP yoga, and it really helped him. So like I always think this, like I'm doing a movie right now about Kratom, and I always think this, like if you're promoting something in a movie and it actually really, really helps people and you really believe it, I don't see anything wrong with that,
Yeah.
And people like to shit on it. Like, oh, it's an infomercial for DDP yoga or whatever. It's like, it's not like that at all. It's a great movie about addiction.
It's a great movie.
That's the reason we made it. Yeah. We didn't make it to sell DDP yoga. I think there's one DDP yoga t-shirt in the whole movie, but we're going to experience that with Kratom. We're going to experience that with everything. But what people also need to know is that if we're not putting out this information, nobody else will.
Yeah.
Nobody else will put out any sort of truthful information because they're on the other side. So you only get two sides.
So DDP was on probably 6 to 8 months ago, and he gave an update on Jake. And how's Jake today? Do you know? He's still doing all right?
You know what? He's up and down.
Okay.
I think all addicts are. You know, he hasn't like, as far as I know, I don't talk to him like every day or anything. I know he was doing well. And then he moved, you know, this is just the life of a professional wrestler. He moved out to Vegas with these big dreams of this guy starting this new wrestling company. He's got millions of dollars and he's start this thing up and he's going to let Jake run it. And of course, like as soon as I heard that, I said to Jake, like, you know, you're going to get out there and it's going to be some shitty rinky dink, you know, in a rodeo hall wrestling thing, right? Oh no, this guy's got millions. And
Vegas doesn't sound like the best place for
and I think I don't know, I haven't spoken to Jake about it, but I think from what I've heard is like he went out there and it wasn't what he expected, which is like sad because Jake's he's a legend, man. Like he was so awesome in wrestling.
His promos and ring psychology,
his promos and the things that had happened to that guy in his life that made him a drug addict. If you know the history of Jake the Snake, the craziest story I've ever heard, the thing that endeared me to Jake was that he's, you know, his father was dating a woman and impregnated that woman's daughter, and that's Jake's mom.
Wow.
That's fucked up. If that doesn't make you do drugs,
that's crazy.
I don't know what would.
Yeah.
And then he had this really abusive relationship with his father, who was a professional wrestler named like Grizzly Roberts or something like that, and who never amounted to anything. You know, and the thing that kills me is that Jake still sees his dad as like that his dad made it and he didn't.
Yeah.
The entire world knows who Jake the Snake is.
Yeah.
He's a legend. He's the man. He made it. He did it, you know? And I think inside, and that's like a lot of us addicts, we feel inadequate, you know? I was just telling my girlfriend the other day because simply because people won't call me back, I was like at a point where like I feel inadequate. I feel like an addict again. And this film business will bring out the worst in any addict. It's so up and down. It's so all over the place. I'm in rooms with the biggest names in Hollywood, and then I'm on my couch by myself figuring out how I'm going to pay the rent.
Right.
And that's my life every single day. And if people don't realize that, people are like, why are you so up and down? Why are you so all over the place? Because because I'm getting jerked off every day by the film industry telling me that I'm great and then telling me that I suck. Yeah. And then having me
like we were saying before, that's such a familiar story. Like I know so many people in the entertainment industry that have that. And it's really hard. Like
I've never gotten one residual. Like I've never made any money off these movies. You know, like these movies, like I make money making them, and that's how I make the money doing it. But like I have to it's all me. It's a one man show. I raise the money, I make the movie, I go out and do it. If I had a media company behind, if I had like Vice TV behind me, I'd destroy people. You know what I mean? Like I don't have anybody behind me. I'm just me. And I think like I like that though. Yeah. To me, that's part of fighting the system. It's like being, you know, because Shane Smith, before he started Vice, he didn't have anybody either. He just had him. Yeah. You know what I mean? So he built himself into that. So I think, like, why can't I do that? Right. Or maybe some way along the line, we do collaborate with people like that and make things bigger. But for right now, I'm just going to keep pushing on my own.
But for anyone listening who hasn't seen your films, I can't recommend them highly enough. Bigger, Stronger, Faster, Prescription Thugs, Trophy Kids, amazing films. Thank you. Love them. I've recommended them time and time again to everybody. Let's backtrack for a sec. How you got started into making films. Is that something you knew you wanted to do early on?
Sure. Okay. Yeah. So I was the kid in high school who was like, I'm a people pleaser. That's all I try to do. Yeah. Try to make people laugh, try to make people happy. You know, I'm always a guy at the gym that's handing somebody a slingshot. Like, oh, my brother owns this company. You should try this. And like really to promote my brother, you know, I post on social media. Half of my social media is either about my brother or my girlfriend because I'm proud of my friends and my people around me. I love them.
That's what's very endearing about you. So you guys always had a great relationship as kids?
Me and my brother? Yeah. He's like my best friend.
Yeah.
So,
which is so cool because you don't see that a lot. I like me and my brother are not anywhere near like that. I don't
get it either. I'm like, oh, you don't get along with your brother? That's so weird. How would you not be like best friends? But then I realized like not everybody's the same. Yeah. And also,
what's the age difference between you two?
It's 4 years. Okay. But if you look at this, it's a beautiful thing. Mad Dog gave me a gift. That gift was lifting weights. Mm-hmm. I took that gift and I gave it to Smelly, right? And I took that gift and gave it to Smelly, not for any other reason except for I wanted to see my little brother get what I got out of it, right? And then he took that and gave it to the world. Yeah. That's a beautiful thing. Really cool. So Mad Dog's gone, but he's not gone. Mad Dog influenced the entire fucking world that Smelly influences.
I got goosebumps.
Yeah. And that's what this is all about. Very cool. That's what this is really about. So when Mad Dog says, I'd rather be dead than average, and you walk into Super Training Gym and you see that on the wall, it'll be there forever. Mark's about to move into a bigger gym, 20,000 square foot gym. And I'm sure that'll be the first thing that's painted on the wall. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because that's what we're proud of. Like we're not proud of, it's not like somebody said this to me the other day. Somebody said, you know what I like about you guys is you're not just proud of one thing. You just keep doing shit. And I'm like, you know what? Like, I never even thought about that, but that's like, he's like, they're like, some people do things and then they get proud of it. Like, you could have been proud of Bigger, Stronger, Faster and just like been like, okay, cool. And I'm just going to do whatever for the rest of my life. And then you made a movie and whatever, and you go off into, you know, and so many people do it. Like, name a great movie and then try to find another movie from that guy.
Right.
It's like, I don't know where they go, but like, anyway.
So as a kid, how'd you first discover that you really wanted to get into making films?
It was a weird situation. It was because of this whole thing about like camaraderie with my brothers and my family. I feel like I was always the observant one, my mom said. I was always the one that was like kind of like watching everybody and seeing what was going on. And like, even if I was like, my grandfather always had a camera in his hand all the time. And I think just from him, that sort of rubbed off. And then like whenever Mark was doing something, playing football or whatever, I'd like want to film it for some reason. I should film that because then we can use it later for something. You know? And I didn't even have any experience in film, but my real first dive into film was my dad gave me an ultimatum. My dad said, you have two choices. You can either, you basically almost failed out of high school. So I graduated high school, a class of like 527 kids. I was like 513. Yeah. I think I graduated with like a 68. We didn't have like GPA like in New York with like 3.0 or whatever. We had like, you know, whatever your percentage out of 100 was. So I was like, my grade point average was like 68% out of 100.
That's
it was
probably mine.
Terrible, right? And I thought I was stupid. But I didn't apply myself at all. I wasn't like studying. All I would do when I would sit in class would write up my next, you know, workout. I'd be writing up like, okay, if I want to squat 600, this is what I need to do over the next couple weeks in order to get there. And that's all. And I'd write out my diet for the next 6 weeks. Yeah. That's all I care about. I'd sit down. I'd write that in every class, and I'd write it over and over. Like, how many workouts am I going to fucking do? Yeah. What else can I work on? Forearms. Okay. You know. It's right. And that's all I would do is sit there and write, you know, training things because I wanted to be the best power lifter in the world. Yeah. I say this in Bigger, Stronger, Faster. I never wanted to be a bodybuilder. So like, if people look at me and go like, "Well, he doesn't look that great," it's like, well, I was trying to like lift, you know. I was benching 400 pounds in high school. I thought, like, well, why not bench 700 pounds when I'm 30 years old, you know? And my brother went on to fucking do that, which is insane, you know? So these pipe dreams that I have actually manifested themselves in what Mark did, but not with what I did. So I just had this idea, like I was going to be the strongest guy in the world. And after a while...
Were there some... we're jumping around, but I want to focus on the film and training. But
no, it all goes into it.
But I have a question. So you said Mad Dog got you into it, but were you following like Ed Coan or anybody back in those days?
The first thing I picked up was Powerlifting USA, and the first person I saw was Ed Coan. And I immediately had a man crush on Ed Coan. Yeah. He was immediately like my favorite. He's like short and squatty. He squatted 1,000 pounds. You know, he was the man. Yeah. And I would say this was like around his prime. This is like around 88, 89. Okay. You know, my brother graduated from high school in 88. And this is when Ed Coan was winning like big, you know, Mountaineer Cup was, you know, it was on NBC, you know, and shit like that. They used to show powerlifting, which we want to get that back. We need to get that back. We need to get this sport back. We need people to, you know, come together, and we'll talk about that later. But I was really into powerlifting. I was really into Powerlifting USA, and I would always read these articles from two people, Dan Duchesne and Louis Simmons. Dan Duchesne usually appeared in Muscle Media, and he would always write about steroids, and Louis Simmons would always write about training. And I was just fascinated with the two. I never tried steroids until like way later on in life, but I was fascinated what they did to the body and about getting bigger, stronger, and faster. And that was always, you know, in the forefront of my mind. So I always had this lifting thing in the forefront of my mind. But what happened to me was really weird is my dad gave me this ultimatum. Either you go get a job with the city, which is a garbage man or a post office worker, something like that, or you can go to a community college, get 2 years under your belt, and then figure out what you want to do with your life. Okay, well, I didn't feel like getting a job for the city. I was like, that's going to be what my dad refers to as an average Joe.
Yeah.
Me and Mad Dog, actually, my dad's always like, I don't know what's wrong with average Joe. Everything to us is wrong with average Joe. Yeah. Everything. It's not wrong for other people.
That reminds me of the movie. You guys kind of have a conversation.
Yeah, we talked about that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
But I'm saying like you know, there's nothing wrong with being an average Joe if you're happy with it.
Right.
But I wasn't happy with that. I wanted more out of my life, and Mad Dog wanted more, and Smelly wanted more. You know, and so I think that's okay to feel that way. Yeah. To feel like I don't, you know, Mad Dog says I'd rather be dead than
Where do you think that drive came from if your dad's saying it's fine?
Didn't come from my dad. It came from society.
Yeah.
It came from Hulk Hogan. Yeah. It came from Sylvester Stallone. It came from Arnold Schwarzenegger. And not any particular message that those guys were trying to send. But when Hulk Hogan says, train, say your prayers, eat your vitamins, and your dad's going to like IBM in a suit and a tie, you're like, which one would I rather be? The guy with the ripped up shirt on the beach with the chicks and the tan, jacked and tan, or do I want to be like, like my dad? And you're like, oh, I want to be like the Hulkster, And meanwhile, we learn those lessons as we move along. Like my dad, you couldn't find a better person on the face of the planet than my dad, and I think like everybody tells me that, so I know that for a fact, and we love him. But the thing is, like, he gave me this choice, and it was the best choice ever, because it was like, either go do something, either be smart or be dumb, and just do, just go through the motions in life or go learn something. And I decided to go learn something. And when I went to go learn something, I took a communications class, and I was in this communications class, and like, oh, you get to make a video in this class. I'm like, oh, okay, that sounds cool. What's my video gonna be, right? So I had two friends that were hip hop dancers, and they could dance any better than anybody in Poughkeepsie, which is probably not saying much. But they actually went down to New York City a lot and battled people in the clubs and did all this cool shit. And it's funny. So like my buddy Marcus, he would go down to a club in New York City, and there'd be kids break dance and whatever, and he'd call them out in a battle, and they'd be like, "Come on, bro, let's go." And then he'd like go out and he'd do a backflip. He'd spin and turn around and throw a fireball in the guy's face because he did all these magic tricks and shit. And people would be like, what the fuck was that? And this guy was so energetic and so on fire with like his presence that we're like, okay, cool, let's make a music video for you, And he was really talented. He was being looked at by LL Cool J's producer and blah, blah.
Okay.
My best friend, Sean, was a white boy from Poughkeepsie who could rap and dance like nobody's ever seen.
Yeah.
And so they were like a funny group. One kid was black, one kid was white. And they were called Bertman and the Bandit because one guy wore a Bert, like Ernie and Bert.
Yeah.
He used to have his hair like that, like Bert.
Yeah.
And he used to wear this Bert doll like on his jacket.
Okay.
Like an actual life-size Bert doll. And he was on like MTV show The Grind. This is all sounding really weird, but downtown Julie Brown nicknamed him Bertman, so they were called Bertman and the Bandit.
Okay.
And that was my first music video thing like I ever did. And it actually won a national contest because it was so weird and creative and fucked up.
Yeah.
That like sometimes being weird is okay. It won a national contest through Sony and the American Film Institute. I was flown to Los Angeles. I was brought to this award ceremony, and I was told by Bob Saget.
And you're like 19 or 20?
19 years old.
Okay.
Bob Saget came up to me and told me, like, I know it probably doesn't mean a lot coming from me. He was hosting America's Funniest Home Videos at the time. I know it doesn't mean a lot coming from me, but Kathleen Kennedy, who's Spielberg's producer, and Francis Ford Coppola immediately said that this one was the winner when we showed it in the judging process. I'm like, wait, Francis Ford Coppola and Kathleen Kennedy were judges on this contest? And he's like, oh, yeah, kid, you got talent, man. You should be proud of yourself. And I was like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
Like, maybe I should be proud of myself.
Yeah.
I barely even knew who they were because I wasn't even that into film.
Right.
But I knew Francis Ford Coppola was like a big name.
Sure.
And so I was like talking to the lady who runs the whole contest. And it was a casual conversation. I said, her name was Lee Briggs. I always put her over because I still remember her. I don't even know where she is, but she's out there somewhere. And I said, Lee, what do I do?
I love how you use wrestling terms. So I put her over.
Yeah, put her over. I said, Lee, what do I do? And she said, you should go to film school, but you can't go here because this is like, you need a 4-year degree to go to AFI because she was from American Film Institute. You should go to USC. It's the best film school in the country. So I'm like, okay, that's where I'm going to go.
Yeah.
So I went and visited USC, and that day we went over there, we checked it out, and there were like I saw the USC cheerleaders. I'm like, I'm in. I'm coming in. And I saw O.J. Simpson's jersey. This is 1992 or 93, I think, like the year before O.J. committed that murder.
Okay.
I was at the school looking at his jersey going like, I really want to come here. This is where the juice went.
Yeah.
This place is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And wouldn't you know, the first summer that I'm home from school is when the white Bronco chase goes, isn't that where you go to school? It's like, yeah, that's where I go to school. But anyway, I decided that I wanted to go to USC, but everybody told me that you're not going to get in. There's no way that you're going to get in. It's harder statistically to get into USC Film School than it is to get into Harvard Law School.
That's what I've heard, yeah.
Because they only let in
quite a leap from you, like, having the option of taking a government job and then you end up at USC Film School a couple years later. Like, that's crazy.
It's always like that.
Yeah.
This is how my life goes, right? So it's like, so going from that to like, okay, now now I apply to USC and everybody's telling me I'm not going to get in. So I'm all nervous. Fuck, I'm not going to get in. Also, my dad had a really good job at IBM. So long story short, I proved everybody wrong. I got into the film school. But I couldn't afford to go to school there. And so my dad came home one day with a big smile on his face. And this is how awesome my dad is. big smile on his face, and he's like, I got fired from my job today. I was working at IBM. They came in and they basically, he knew they were downsizing, and he was part of the downsize. He's like, I got fired from my job today, but you're going to be able to go to school, because my first call was the financial aid. And I told him, I don't have a job. I don't have any income, and you qualify for everything. Pack your bags. You're going to college, kid. And I was like, fuck.
Unbelievable.
You know? And so I'm going to like get choked up talking about it, but like when I went there, I was like, I can't let this slide.
Yeah.
You know, when Eminem goes like, you got that one shot.
Yep.
Are you going to take it? You know, that was my journey through USC.
Yeah.
I was like, you got the shot. Wow. Now take it. So I took it. And I thought I was going to graduate USC and I was going to make, $100,000 as like an editor or like a, producer, whatever. I don't know. I just thought that's what you do. You graduate and make $100,000 from USC, right? That's why you go there.
Yeah.
You graduate and there's nothing. There's no job placement. There's nothing. There's zero. Like there's like absolutely worse than nothing. There's like, oh, kid, you can't get a job in the film industry with no experience. It's like, well, how do you get experience? Well, you got to work on a film. How do you work on a film? We have to have experience. Like, catch 22.
Yeah.
And you're just screwed and scrambling. So I made my own film. It was called Billy Jones. I put that out. It was like an epic short film. It took me 3 years to complete.
Damn.
It won the Yahoo Film Festival. And when I won the Yahoo Film Festival, it was the first time they ever did it. It was like this online festival. Roger Ebert gave me the award. It was like right before he passed away. Gave me the award. Filmmaker of the Future, it was called. I got this award for Billy Jones. And then the Yahoo Film Festival folded and went away. And and then after that, like I had a script that I was going out with to sell. And I had all these top people that I was, that I love. Ben Stiller, Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, all these guys looking at the script to produce it. And one by one, they just drop off, you have all these people involved that like everybody's excited to read the script and they read it and like, yeah, it's great. But like, we have this other one we're trying to decide against. And the other one's like, yeah, it's just not right for us, or for whatever reasons they drop off. And I spent 10 years floundering around the film business with a completed short film that was like an epic.
Yeah.
And with plenty of screenplays to produce and these other things, but I couldn't get a job. Yeah. I could not, for the life of me, get a job with anybody. I've sent out like 500 resumes. So I ended up working at Gold's Gym.
Okay.
And I'm sitting at Gold's Gym and in walks Alex Bono. Alex was a friend of mine from film school who shot Billy Jones. So this is about 10 years ago. He had filmed. He was the guy that actually was a cinematographer on Billy Jones. And I was like, oh shit, this is kind of like a good little reunion. What have you been up to?
Yeah.
He's like, oh man, I've been grinding. I've been working for Saturday Night Live. I shoot all the commercials for Saturday Night Live. So all the funny little commercials in between. He was shooting all that stuff. And he's like, I'm making pretty good money, but I really want to do something on my own. Like I want to do something I own. That's mine. Like, yeah, you know what? Preaching to the choir, buddy. So do I. I've been wanting to do a movie about this place forever. And we're sitting in Gold's Gym and and he's like, well, everybody in here. You know the whole story. Maybe we should do it. And I'm like, well, I have a script. And so I gave him this script. And the script was called The Battle for Muscle Beach. And it was about it was a mockumentary. It's supposed to be the best in show in Gold's Gym. Okay. That's what I was going to do.
Yeah.
And I was dead set on doing it. Let's do this. And he's like, look, I talked to my wife, Tamsin, and Tamsin is a documentary filmmaker. She thinks this would be way better as a documentary. There's just too much here. Like the steroids, this, that, I'm like, well, the steroids are very interesting, but nobody's going to talk about them. And he's like, yeah, but we can try to get around that and work around that. So I just remember this phone call like clear as day. We're talking about, well, what are we actually going to do? What is this going to be if we try to put something together? And I just said to Alex, well, it's kind of like this. In real life, both of my brothers are on steroids right now. And I'm in the middle. And I'm not sure if I should take that leap and do them, or if I should just stay natural and go that way and be proud of what I've accomplished on my own.
Yeah.
Or does it even really matter? And he's like, pauses, like 30 seconds. Are you there? Is that good? Hello? Are you there? He goes, hold on a minute. I hold on another minute. Comes back and he's like, well, your brothers talk to us in the movie? Absolutely. My brothers talk about anything. They don't give a shit. They have nothing going on. Smelly had nothing. He didn't have a gym. He didn't have,
Yeah.
Of course my brothers are talking to him. And so he's like, come over to our house right now. And I'm like, okay. Like, weird. What? I just mentioned one thing. Now all of a sudden I'm coming to your house. And they're like, they had this thing all drawn out. It's about you and your brothers. It's a blah, blah, blah.
Wow.
And they like pitched me on my own story that I'm like, yeah, I just told you guys all that. I'm like, I know, we're pitching it back to you.
Yeah.
It sounded amazing. And so that's how Bigger, crazy. Stronger, Faster really, came about, was like this collaborative effort between me, Alex Bono, Tamsin Rawati. They'll be endeared to my heart forever. I love them. My friend Kurt Engfer got involved on the film, and he's involved currently in the film that I'm doing now, and probably be involved in everything. He was the editor on Fahrenheit 9/11 and Bowling for Columbine.
Okay.
He also did some great movies in the health space called Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead.
I haven't seen that one.
Those are great.
I hear it's great, yeah.
There's 3 different films. There's like a trilogy on Netflix of those. They're great. They're more about juicing and not about, he always jokes that he made 2 juice movies, Bigger, Stronger, Faster, and that. So he was very instrumental in our story. And
how long did it take to make that?
3 years.
3 years.
And when we started Bigger, Stronger, Faster, he told me Bowling for Columbine took 3 years. Well, fuck that. We're not taking 3 years to do this. We'll get this shit done in a year. But 3 years later, he's like, I told you so.
Yeah.
And I've done it. So you have to listen to people that have done it before. They're usually always right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I said, that was a great film. And that was pretty, from the get-go, was that pretty well received?
It was, the hardest part about making a movie is thinking about that first day, that first screening. So we're sitting in Sundance and the movie starts. Like January 23rd, 1984 is the day that changed my life forever. And then
that beginning's the best.
The Iron Sheik comes on screen.
Yeah.
Four people get up and leave. Really? 4 people just get up like, oh, fuck this. What is this, some stupid wrestling movie?
Oh, wow.
My heart just sinks down into my stomach. And for the rest of the movie, I watched as like, now 5 people left. Now 6 people left.
Yeah.
Now 7 people left. And then it kind of stopped at about 7 people.
Okay.
And I'm like, I noticed during the movie about 7 people left. And they're like, oh, yeah, those are just agents. They come in, they pop their head in, they watch the first 3 minutes, they see if it's for them, and if it's not for them, they move on.
Gotcha.
I'm like, oh, okay, that's how, I thought everybody's walking out because they hated it.
Yeah.
And so the movie ended, I got to the bathroom. By the time I got to the bathroom, there was 3 agents, CAA, William Morris, and ICM. We need to talk to you.
Wow. CAA is the biggest, no?
They're all the biggest. Okay. William Morris, they're all big.
Okay.
But I was like, holy shit, these guys are like, they're like fucking hawks. They're like ready to go. But, and then the sales companies and the distribution companies, like, we need to talk to you. We need this movie. And so then you wait, and the biggest wait is for like, what's the review in Variety or Hollywood Reporter going to be? Because if you get killed there, you get killed everywhere. So we're waiting, and the Variety article comes out, and I see Alex like coming down the hallway for breakfast. He's got a big smile on his face. And this is before everything was just on the internet all the time. He's got a big smile on his face, and he's holding the Variety. It's like, we did it. We got a fucking good review. He's like, awesome. It's beyond good. It's like amazing. It's like this guy was gushing over the movie in Variety. And because of that, I think that set the tone. Like, this is, but I still feel,
I remember everybody loving that movie.
I still feel like it didn't even reach 1/4 of the, or 1/8 of the potential
that it could
have reached. So there's a movie coming out, actually this week on Netflix called Icarus, which is a huge doping movie, which sold at Netflix for $5 million. But I feel like it sold at Netflix for $5 million because 10 years ago, my film paved the way for a movie about steroids to be sold for $5 million.
Gotcha.
My movie sold for $650. You know what I mean? Yeah. This movie's a little bit more provocative. It's about the Russian doping scandal, and he's got really crazy access to stuff. So I think it's going to be like a really great movie. So it might be because it's like got this kind of crazy aspect to it. But also, I just think that we paved the way for each other. Other people, Michael Moore paved the way for me, and I think that this paved the way for, other people. So hopefully, like, as documentary filmmakers, we can keep paving the way for each other.
Yeah.
I would like to see documentaries get more popular. They're not, everybody says that they love documentaries, especially girls. I love documentaries. It's like, they've never seen anything I've done. I'm like, well, how did you not see it? They're pretty broad topics. Like, they're pretty big topics that are out there. It's like, you would think that people would see it more.
Well, let's talk about Prescription Thugs, because I love that one too. And so what inspired you to make that? And then what happened to you? Tell the story about what happened to you during the making of it. And then afterwards, we touched on that, but let's kind of go through the whole thing.
It's pretty simple. What inspired me to make Prescription Thugs was my brother died right after Bigger, Stronger, Faster. About 9 months after he died, my friend Chris Masters was a WWE wrestler. He was going through a major situation with opiates, and he was my roommate at the time. And I had helped him We had through his girl. I was helping his girlfriend help him. He had gotten over it, and we were having a conversation one day, and I said, "They're all just a bunch of prescription thugs. All these guys. That's what it is.
Yeah.
They just want your money, and they don't care about you." And he's like, "That's it. That's a name for something." And I'm like, and maybe we should make it. Maybe I should make a documentary about it. Somebody's like, "You should, because you should be angry."
Yeah.
You know, that your brother died, that you got addicted, that I got addicted. Like and I was mad. And I was like, well, let's make this movie. And
talk about some of the crazy stats too for people who haven't seen
it. Yeah, I mean,
film.
like, look, in this country we have a 9/11 scale loss every 3 weeks in this country from drug overdoses.
Holy shit.
So people want to go and cry about terrorism and all this stuff. We are dying from drugs every single day, and nobody's doing a shit about it. Yeah. Nobody's doing anything about it. Chris Christie just said yesterday,
and you're not just talking about coke and like party
everything,
drugs and shit.
Everything.
Yeah.
Like, total drugs is like 50,000 people die in the US, but mostly it's like 60% opiates.
Yeah.
So just looking at the amount of people that die in this country from prescription drugs, we can change that. We can fix that. And I knew that. And so in Prescription Thugs, I wanted to set out to make people aware of the problem. It was more of an awareness movie. I didn't really have a solution to the problem. And that was an issue for me, because I was like, I'm telling everybody, like, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. And I don't really have much of a solution. So like after the film was done, I started going on like this sort of media press tour with it. I started talking to all these people like Dr. Drew. And Dr. Drew was like, well, they did a big study with Advil and Tylenol, and they found out if you take Advil and Tylenol in combination, it works synergistically better than any opioid painkiller. People have found it to be very highly effective, even more effective than opioid painkillers. And so I went and looked up the study, and Dr. Drew was right. There's the study. These are Advil and Tylenol combination. People found it to be more effective. So I started doing that every day. For me to get out of pain with the arthritis I have, takes about 10 pills of each. So about five times a day, I was taking 2 Advil, 2 Tylenol. So 4 pills at a time, popping them. And I'd get out of pain for an hour or two, and I'd be like, later on in the day, I'd take more. So I was taking anywhere from 8 to 16 pills a day.
Holy shit.
Advil and Tylenol.
And your liver was just getting decimated.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
No one ever. I'm a pretty healthy guy. I'm pretty smart when it comes to that, but I'm also pretty guinea piggish with my body. So I'm like, aspirin ain't gonna do shit to me.
Right.
Now I'm the opposite. Now I'm like, man, now everything does damage. Now I look at I cut out Diet Coke because Dave Asprey told me it kills your mitochondria. Yeah. And that was just enough for me to go like, I don't want anything detrimental in my body anymore. Right. So now I'm looking at like, how to stay more healthy holistically. But like back then I was just looking for, what do I use to get out of pain?
Yeah.
And then I had a call from London, and my friend Justin, he's over in London. And he said he used to be a bodybuilder. His name's Justin House. Trained back in the day with like Dorian Yates and all those guys out back there in England. He's a big dude. He's like 6'5", all jacked. And I remember when he used to live over here, we didn't know each other when he lived over here. He lived here and he used to train at Venice, and I just knew of him because he was such a big dude. And so he called me from London, and he said, "Hey mate, I just heard you on Joe Rogan, and I need to warn you." And I'm like, "What? Like about what?" And he's like, "You did an awesome interview. Your interview was stupendous. It was amazing." Like he's going on and on about it. But he's like, "But the part where you talked about Advil and Tylenol, I need to warn you. I had a kidney transplant from taking so much Advil, and that's what it was from. I was a Nubain addict. When I got off of Nubain, I started taking Advil like crazy. I was abusing. I was taking like 20 a day, and within 3 years of being on Advil, I needed a full-on kidney transplant. Jeez. And if my brother didn't give it to me, I would have died." So when I heard that, I was like, holy shit. Yeah. I better cut out these pills. And strangely enough, like just at that time, a guy that was in Prescription Thugs, Luther Reigns, who's a WWE wrestler, he calls me up and he's like, "Look, bro, you ever heard of Kratom?" And I'm like, he's always in the shadiest, weirdest shit. Like he used to sell spice, And I'm like, "No, I haven't heard of Kratom. What the fuck's Kratom?" And he's like, and I go, "Oh, you know what? Actually, I have heard of Kratom. I tried it once during Prescription Thugs, and it didn't do shit. It was supposed to get you high, and it doesn't get you high."
Right.
So now I'm segueing into like what my answer for the movie Prescription Thugs is this new movie I'm doing called A Leaf of Faith, which is about this plant called Kratom, which I found it's a natural painkiller that's not addictive. And I think it's a really going to be a miracle. And I think the film is going to be a miracle for anybody who's in pain or still suffering with addiction, because not only does it help people get through their addictions without feeling withdrawals, the other thing that it also does is it gets you out of pain. Yeah. And so for me, it's a miracle.
So it's a game changer for you.
Yeah, I take it every.
So would you slowly wean off of the Advil, or just cold turkey get off all that shit?
I stopped taking it.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't need it anymore.
And immediately once you started the Kratom, or does it
immediately that day?
Interesting.
Yeah. I think
how much are you? I don't know how much.
I could look it up in my phone, but it's like August of like 2 years, like a year and a half. It's like in August 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. In this month 2 years ago, I stopped completely taking Advil and started just taking Kratom, and that was it.
So if I get banged up in the gym or something, what do you know the dosage? Like, what should I start with?
Well, it's all individual.
Yeah.
So like, I'm not a doctor or whatever.
Yeah.
But so what I'll tell you what I take. Yeah. So I take it in capsule form. You can take it in capsule form. You can take it in tea form. Now, in a tea form or in a powder form, it's a lot like creatine. So I want people to just put it in perspective like that. When you take creatine, you need about 5 grams of creatine. So you know what that looks like? Yeah. That's about how much Kratom you need.
Okay.
But that may be 5 or 6 pills.
Yeah.
So that scares people.
Right.
Because they're thinking 5 or 6 pills. But if you were to take your creatine and put it in capsules, that's exactly what it would look like, 5 or 6 pills. So I take about 6 Kratom pills, capsules every morning, and it just alleviates my pain. Yeah. You know what happened to me? I was my brother started doing this thing where he's working with some guys. Like I said, he's working with Dana White now, and working with Stone Cold. And he tells them what Mark does. He's like, I practice what I preach, so I want you guys to do it. After every meal, I walk for 10 minutes. And I'm like, well, I can't really walk for 10 minutes. I have arthritis. Everything hurts. But after I started the ketogenic diet and started Kratom, I don't have pain anymore like that.
Which one did you start first? The Kratom?
I started the Kratom first.
Okay.
And then
how long after
because
did
I
you
felt
start
really
keto?
good on Kratom, I was like, well, what if I started keto too?
Yeah.
Well, how would that feel? And I feel great on both. It's like
was that a significant change too in your pain?
Definitely a synergistic combination.
Yeah.
I recommend them together. And I think like, when you see in this film, and then the next film after this will be about nutrition.
Yeah.
So the next film, like these all run into each other. The next film after it's about nutrition. After nutrition, what comes after nutrition? Well, I'm 44 years old right now, and I want to know how to turn all this around and turn it back.
Yeah.
So the next thing after nutrition is anti-aging.
Yep.
And like what works, what doesn't, what's good, what's bad. I have a torn rotator cuff and a torn tricep right now, so I can't do any sort of powerlifting. Plus, I have so much residual pain from my hips, but I've never done stem cells. And I hear Joe Rogan talking about stem cells. I hear Dave Asprey talking about stem cells, and I hear who their doctors are. And like in these movies, I'm going to go to those guys. We're going to get this. We're going to do it on camera. Why not do it on camera? Why not? All these people hacking themselves and doing all these experiences. Like, let's just get it on film. That's my goal now. Is like, let's get this stuff on film.
What's the thing that Kobe would go to Germany for? What's that called again?
PRP.
Yeah, PRP.
Right? Yeah. So there's so many technologies like that like you have to go to other countries for, and I'm willing to do it all as long as it's safe enough. As long as the risk isn't too high. If there's something where like you could possibly die, I'm not going to try that, because the whole reason I launched into this might sound weird to everybody listening, but I had a dream where I died. And it was like the most life-changing dream.
Wow.
Because I died, and when I died, there was just blackness. There was nothing after it. There was just black darkness. And it's like, so I'm like, I die, and the Chris Bell channel tunes out forever. That's all that happens. And if I'm not around anymore, everything that I've done and I do, it's like it can't change anymore. It's always going to stay the same. It's always going to be stuck in history. Like Mad Dog, he's stuck in history of where he got to. Yep. We don't see him as like a 45-year-old. We only see him as a 37-year-old. We can't make that. And so I'm like, if I'm going to have a legacy, if I'm going to leave something here that people are going to take away, I need to be around for a long time.
Yeah.
And I need to be healthy doing it. I need to look good. I need to feel good.
Sure.
And so this is becoming a lot more about me than it is about you guys. But I think that that's the only way to make it about other people is to make it more about, the more I make it about me, the more it becomes about you.
Yeah.
It's like, that's a weird dichotomy, but that's how it works.
Yeah. And do you use CBD at all for,
I like CBD.
Yeah.
I think that CBD has its use. I think CBD for seizures and for things like that. I think also like the problem we're having with Kratom and CBD, and especially with CBD, is CBD's in Schedule 1, and a Schedule 1 drug says there's no medicinal value for it, and you can't even do research on it. So some people have they have a license where they have a permit to be able to study CBD, but it's very few people. And we need to open that up to the general public so everybody can study it and everybody can see what's good and what's bad. I have a problem, and I think Mark does too. We always have an issue with like not feeling stuff. So like when you take something, you want to, ephedrine, you take it and you feel it.
Yeah.
So
I've
with
always said that
Kratom, you take
CBD,
it.
I feel. You don't feel CBD really?
Well, I don't feel it at all because it's not psychoactive. So I'm like, it's hard for me to judge whether the pain in my hips is like gone or not. Like it's like,
well, see, I might be cheating a little because I only take CBD with a little bit of THC because that's supposed to really enhance the effects.
I think that's
so. Just like they've told me just 1 milligram of THC really enhances the effects of CBD.
And I think that might be the issue.
Yeah.
The other thing is like we list euphoria as a side effect on drugs in this country, which shows you what we think of it. Shouldn't everybody have euphoria?
Yeah.
Like if we eat good and we're in the loving company of people that we care about, shouldn't we all feel good? Shouldn't we all feel euphoric? You know what I mean? Yeah. So why is euphoria a bad side effect? You know,
right.
Why is getting high a side effect? Why is getting high bad?
Yeah.
I think like there's nothing more productive than like, I have friends that they go to the gym, they fucking train really hard. They come home and they smoke because it makes them feel relaxed and it makes them feel good. And then it opens their mind.
Well, I think there's that stigma, and you'd probably agree. Like when we were growing up, there was the pothead kind of stereotype. It was just a lazy guy doing nothing.
Sure.
But out here, I know, and I'm sure you know, a ton of people who are super productive, super successful, that just need to chill and smoke weed anywhere from 3 to 7 times a week. It's because when you're hustling that hard and your mind's always going, fuck it, it's hard to turn it off sometimes.
I'll just say this. I'll just say this is like, I don't really talk about it a lot because I don't like the stigma and I don't like the way people judge it, but I do use marijuana.
Yeah.
And I do use it fairly often. Yeah. And I use it in a way, I'll only use like edibles. I just don't like smoking things. You know? Yeah. Sometimes maybe like a vape pen or whatever. But I'll use it. I'll use it because it stops me from ever thinking about ever going back to alcohol or ever going back to prescription pills ever. I don't ever fucking need it. Like if I have
and it's so frustrating, right? That there's such a negative connotation
it does,
to
but
weed, but like people drink all the fucking time and post it on social media about drinking.
It does, but I'm an adult and I know better now. You know what I mean? And that's, I think, what we need to look at.
But I'm saying people aren't educated.
I'm an adult. It's legal, and I'm educated now. So I think we need to just get other people to our level of
that's
that.
That's what I'm saying,
To say, because some people say, like my girlfriend even, like, well, it's kind of shady, you know. But her father owns a health food store, and he sells CBD oil. So then it started opening her mind to it a little bit. Like, oh, maybe it's not that bad. And I think we just all have to look at, like, why is it bad? Why? Yeah. What kind of behavior are you? And people say they always want to bring up driving, and it's like, well, bring us the statistics that show us that driving is bad, and we'll just make some laws around it. How about that? We did it with alcohol. Alcohol is way worse. Driving on alcohol, just forget about it. I don't recommend that people drive high, but we don't know. Do we know how much it impairs people? Have we done tests with crash test dummies and fucking people behind the wheel? Like, have we done that? I don't know that we've done it enough to know how much it impairs you and what the limit is. And, you know, and we have to do those studies. We have to open our minds to these studies. I think the National Institute on Drug Abuse and these other, organizations that the government puts in place, they don't do enough. They don't study these things. So how do they know? You know, they just want to say, well, look, pot, it impairs you, so it's bad if you drive on it. Well, look, Kratom, they say Kratom impairs you. It says on the bottle of Kratom, do not operate with heavy machinery, because that's what the FDA requires. Well, look, for me, driving is so painful. So when I'm sitting in a car, I said this on Joe Rogan, when I'm sitting in a car and I have to drive to Sacramento and I'm sitting there for 6 hours driving to my brother's house to go visit my family, I need Kratom. I can't do that drive without it.
Yeah.
So explain that. Like, don't take this before operating a car or heavy machinery. I need it to drive. You know what I mean? So it's like, that's somebody might think that's crazy, but I think that we need to understand it better.
Yeah. How has your training evolved? Has it changed as you've gotten older?
My training's actually
and because of the pain
a lot. You know, it's devolved. It's like, I used to be a hardcore powerlifter. I used to train, like all day long and go, do all that stuff. And Mark and I have done every single thing you can possibly do in the fitness industry. So like, we try to put an inch on our arms in one day, where you basically like hang out at your house all day and you eat and lift. Yeah, of course you did.
Couldn't straighten my elbows for 2 months.
All you do is like a set every half hour, and you're just fucking so pumped by the end of the day. And you got to eat in between it.
Yeah.
So it's like, you definitely gain an inch or two on your gut Maybe a half an inch on the arms, but it doesn't even stay. It stays for like a pump and then it goes away. So anyway, we would do all that stuff. We would try, everything. And what I came across that I always like hacking things, like way before biohackers and Tim Ferriss and Dave and all these guys. I always I didn't have a term for it, but I was like, I like to do things easier rather than harder. And when I found the West Side Conjugate Method, which is like a rotating system where you just have a bunch of exercises. And it's like, okay, pick a heavy exercise for upper body one day. And then after that, do a bunch of assistance exercises. And then the next day, pick a heavy exercise for lower body, and then a bunch of assistance exercise for that. And then on the other days, you're doing upper body and lower body for speed. Yep. It all just made sense. It was all just simple.
Did you use that for a long time?
Yeah, I used it forever. Yeah. Everything I've ever done training was West Side. Yeah. And even when powerlifting went more raw, I was still doing box squats because I feel like box squats really helped me personally with explosion, but also helped me because it helps guide me down to where I need to be. Like it helps me guide sort of my ass down to the bench or down to the box. And for me, that gets my hips sitting in the right spot. It opens up my hips. Like I get to sit on the box. I let my hips open up. When I'm squatting normal, I'm just kind of like doing a whole lot of fuckery in the lower back and hips that I think is not good for me. And that's me because I end up tucking my butt under because of my flexibility. So I think we all need to look at our flexibility. Or I see some people in the gym squatting perfect, like a 2-year-old child. Yeah. And you're so jealous. You're like, oh shit, that guy squats like a 2-year-old. And like, that's what we want to go for. That's perfect for him. I don't have that. I can't keep my feet on the ground and keep, and get my ass that low to the ground, So I have to modify things. And so you say, has your training evolved? It's sort of devolved, but it's devolved in a thing like I have a torn rotator cuff.
I wouldn't say that it's devolved. I mean, if your mindset across the board is health and longevity now, I wouldn't say it's really devolved.
It's different.
I mean,
it's completely different. Like I don't train for power and strength anymore, I should say. I train to be healthier, and I know it's a long process. Like I didn't get this fat and fucked up from one day of Dunkin' Donuts. You know what I mean? This wasn't a one-day dunker. This is this is years and years of heavy abuse. I'm talking about like drinking a bottle of vodka every day and washing it down with cheesecake. That's not good for your body. Yeah. You know what I mean? So those are the kind of things that I would do, or washing it down with chicken wings. It's like, and thinking, chicken wings, they don't really have a lot of carbs, you know what I mean? But like, they're fried in shit and they're the shittiest it's like part of the animal. And it's just like, it's everything wrong. You know what I mean? And so like you can do keto and you can do everything wrong as well. And that's what I was trying to say before. It was like, I was kind of doing keto. I was kind of doing it wrong in a way where like, I was just really so concerned about chasing ketones and not eating whole food and being healthy. So with my training, what I realized a couple of weeks ago was that I am trying to do too much and I'm injured. How do I do less and get great results? And actually, I saw Dorian Yates in the gym. And I saw Dorian Yates in the gym. I stopped and I talked to him, and I never met him before. And he was super cool. And I'm like, I think I like that guy more than anybody else on the planet. Like, I just remember when he was Mr. Olympia, it was cool. Yeah. Like it was badass. There was something like majestic about it. He
was one of my, Louis and Dorian were two of my biggest influences.
I think maybe Dorian was kind of mysterious. Like he didn't do a lot of interviews back then. Yeah. He didn't talk to any, he was just a bad mofo. And they were like, I want to be like Dorian. Like he's cool. Yeah. He had the biggest back in the history of bodybuilding. Yeah. And so for me, when I saw Dorian, it just clicked. I'm like, oh shit, we're doing all these things to hack our diet. We're doing all these things to hack, this and that. Why can't we do it with our training? Because that's what Dorian did. Yeah. So the very first thing, my Uncle John and my Uncle George, they were our inspirations growing up. When we were like little kids, we would go to my grandparents' house and my uncles would have these bodybuilding magazines, and we'd always be flipping through the pages looking at, these bodybuilding magazines. That's sort of what like really inspired us as kids. And when we saw like, these guys like Dorian Yates, we're like, oh, I got to get like this. Yeah. But my uncle always harped on this one guy. It almost like we didn't even know what being gay was, but if we did at the time, we would think our uncle's gay with the amount of times he talked about Mike Menser. Okay. And he actually had a poster of Mike Menser up on his wall. Yeah. And it was like one of these like early 80s posters where the guy's like in these short shorts, like showing off his pubes almost. Yep. And he's just shredded. And like at first we were like, what? Like, and then we realized that guy's got a perfect physique. My uncle's like, the reason I have that picture on the wall is that's the only person who's ever scored a perfect score in a bodybuilding show. He scored a perfect 300.
Yeah.
And in Bigger, Stronger, Faster, the scene where I say my mom's brother John was a bodybuilder and he encouraged. Well, John died at age 34 of a cocaine overdose, and that's something I didn't want to put in the movie, but just to show the reality of things. Like, this runs in my family. Addiction runs in my family. He was our hero. He was so much like Mad Dog, and he died young. And so to see those patterns happen in your own family, it's kind of scary. Yeah. And also to see that happen in me.
Right.
Was kind of scary. So, but yeah, like, it was always my.
So wait, uncle, how did Yates lead to you?
I'm going. Like, my uncle was always such a fan of Menser.
Yeah.
That we started following what Mike Menser was doing.
Yeah.
And Mike Menser started training Dorian Yates. Yeah. And so when that happened, we were following that as it was happening in like the magazines, and we would do
I remember all that.
We would do the heavy duty workouts.
Yep.
So I bought the Mike Menser heavy duty workout book. I bought Arthur Jones' book.
Yeah,
I've read all that shit. And what I realized now is that we do go in the gym and we pound ourselves, and to do what? To make ourselves sore so we recover and we go back and do it again, right? Yesterday I did back. I was in the gym for like 30 minutes. I pounded my back so bad I can't move today. The only difference between the workout I had yesterday and the work I had 3 months ago is that one took 3 hours and one took 30 minutes. Or not 3 hours, but one took an hour and a half and one took 30 minutes. Yeah. Because I'm lollygagging around. I'm doing just as many sets, and maybe some of those sets even reach close to the peak intensity of a one set with maximal effort. Because to explain to everybody what Dorian Yates does is he does one warm-up set on an exercise, and then he hits it all out. Yeah. And the way that they say it is like, the way that they make an analogy is like, you can hit a stick of dynamite all day. You can tap it with a hammer all day long, but if you hit it once hard, it's going to explode. And so that was the Dorian Yates, thing. Mike Menser, Dorian Yates, that was their goal, was to hit it hard and get out. And so I just started going back to that recently. But I feel
like slashing your volume, you mean?
Yeah, I was just doing way too much. Yeah. Like, in the end, I'm a filmmer, not a bodybuilder, I'm a powerlifter, right? So for maybe if that's what your job was, maybe, you got to.
So what's a week of training like for you now?
I get up every morning at about 5 or 6. I walk to the gym, which is.
You train every day?
Yeah, pretty much every day. I try to do something, like get out of the house. So even if I don't work out that day, I'll get up and I'll walk. Okay. So I'll walk like 20 minutes. It's 20 minutes to the gym. I'll work out and I'll walk 20 minutes back. Now, I just started that about 3 weeks ago with this whole Yates thing, because I wanted to incorporate some walking. And what I was doing was getting up, driving to the gym, doing a half an hour of cardio, 45 minutes of cardio, whatever. What a waste of time. I just walk out on the street, because I know from Louis Simmons and from other strength coaches, Charles Poliquin and all these guys, that treadmills actually weaken your hamstrings because it's doing the work for you. So I actually, just going back to being natural, like, is it better to walk on a treadmill or walk on the ground? Probably better to walk on the ground. Sure. Do I have proof of that? Not really, but I just think it's better. I feel better doing it. Yeah. I feel like I'm going somewhere. It's not as boring. Yeah. So then what's your strength training? You strength train pretty much every day? Strength training is just like working around the injuries. A lot more, and going to the Dorian Yates thing, a lot more hammer strength and machines, and not being afraid. I used to be such a meathead. Yeah. Oh, that guy just uses machines. Yeah. Oh, that guy he doesn't even eat meat. He doesn't even, it's like, I've gone so far away from that meathead mentality. Yeah. Because it's like, if somebody is in good, like, if I met you and you were in good shape and you're like, well, I don't eat meat. I'm like, what do you do? Like, because now I'm interested in results. Yeah. Now that's all I'm interested in. And I think people had me right. There's been a couple times where I've posted things, right? And like I said, it's always a learning curve where I've posted things. I'm like, you know what? That guy has me right. I am selectively trying to prove my hypothesis, but I'm not a scientist, so I need to stop doing that. Yeah. What I need to do, and that's even bad. That's terrible for a scientist to do, to try to fit the research into their thing. But as a filmmaker, what I need to do is open up my mind and be more unbiased. Like, be as unbiased as I can. And what you realize, there is no unbiased. There's always going to be a bias. Sure. There's always going to be a point of view and an opinion. You always start somewhere. You don't start nowhere. Either you start as a vegetarian, or you start as a carnivore. Yeah. You don't start nowhere and try to make the argument, Yeah. So that's where I'm going with this stuff, is like being more open-minded. Also, like, why not include people? We've learned an important lesson in politics, these past year or whatever, why not include people? Yep. Don't exclude people, include people. So when you're writing a diet plan for people that are obese, make sure that you're including a diet plan for people that are ordinary, that want to be extraordinary. Make sure you're including a diet plan for people that eat meat, you know, and eat and just eat vegetables. Right. Make sure you make, you know, like come up with a system where everybody can be involved.
Yeah.
Where like, and what I love about like keto is like keto is an eating system. I would just call it like an eating system. I don't just call it a diet. It's an eating system where you can have all that variety. You could do vegan keto. Yeah. You could do straight meat keto. You could do it any way that you want. And I like that. And I think that that's where we need to go with our overall nutrition. What I like about Dave Asprey's Bulletproof Diet, I always recommend the Bulletproof Roadmap to anybody. You can download that at bulletproof.com. But the Bulletproof Roadmap shows you a bunch of foods that you can eat, and then a bunch of foods that maybe you shouldn't eat.
Yeah.
But you can't.
Yeah, he's done a good job with that.
But you don't like take everything off the list.
Yeah.
You like everything's on the list. It's just cheesecake's just like way down. Like, right. It's gonna be like, hey, you know, come on, guy. Yeah. You know, it's in that territory of red. It's in red. Like red. Don't try not to eat it. But if you have to eat it, fuck it. It's on the list. Yeah. What Dave says it's nice is like, you'll never be off the diet. Because you're somewhere in the range, right? And that makes people feel good. And I think a lot of this diet, nutrition, exercise, training is look, it's hard. It's hard work. But how do we make people feel like they're accomplishing something and doing something and not just getting killed? Yeah. You know, and so I think that's like, I think it's better to get half the results but double the pleasure for the person. Yeah. And do it slower than it is.
Well, because you brought up a good point before. So like, how long did it take you to get fat and fucked up? So like 10 years, 20 years, you're not going to have results in 60 days that are going to, you know what I mean?
And that's what I'm saying. We can hack things to make them go quicker, but you
got to be in long term,
and also like be realistic and take your time.
Yeah.
And we'll take your time with it. And like even sobriety. In the beginning of sobriety, I would drive around and I'd look at liquor stores. And I would drive around and I would think about like, what could I take that's sort of like booze, but it's not booze?
Wow.
What could I do that's sort of like an opiate, but not an opiate? And that's where like those things like Kratom get dangerous because that's what people think people are going to do. Yeah. But my message is that I think people will take Kratom and they'll just completely forget about the other drug because you realize you don't need it and you realize your life is better.
Yeah.
It just takes you a little bit of getting away from it, you know, getting away from that, you know.
So A Leaf of Faith, do you have any idea when it's going to be out?
Yeah, it should be out pretty soon. I finished it. I mean, I was just actually shooting some stuff for it today, right before this. Yeah. So we're excited about it. I am. I think one way or another, it'll be out by January. People will see it. So we're trying to enter it. We're trying to enter it into some film festivals. However, that is a you know, that's a tough racket. That's a tough thing. There's reasons how they program film festivals, why certain movies get in. I'm not making an excuse for my movie not getting in. All I'm saying is that like, if we don't get into a film festival, that'll throw a timeline off a little bit. So if we don't get into a film festival, I'm probably going to go right to Netflix and try to go right there and try to just get it put up. So it may be sooner, it may be later. I think if it gets into the festival we want, then we're in a good position.
And where can people see all your other films? Where can they check them all out?
They can check them all out at Netflix. They can follow me at Big Strong Fast on Instagram. They can follow our Instagram for the Kratom movie, which is A Leaf of Faith, like at A Leaf of Faith, I believe. They can follow that, and all the information will be on there, and they can check it all out. They can also go to supertraining.tv to check out all the videos that we talked about with my brother and stuff like that.
Awesome. Great stuff. Chris, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
All right, buddy.
Guys, thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next time.